Est au ministre de la Famille et des Enfants. Oh, sorry. Yes, I'm ahead of myself here. My pleasure to, for the member of Cook, Tantramar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to respectfully recognize and acknowledge that we are gathered here today on the unsurrendered and unceded traditional lands of the Wolastoq. This territory is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship, which the Wolastoq, Mi'kmaq, and Passamaquoddy peoples first signed with the British Crown in 1725. The treaties did not deal with surrender of lands and resources, but, in fact, recognized Wolastoq, Mi'kmaq, and Passamaquoddy title and established the rules for what was to be an ongoing relationship between nations. I am honored to be in the legislature today representing the people of Memramcook Tantramar. I deeply appreciate their support and thank them for placing their confidence in me to bring their concerns to the legislature and speak on their behalf. Standing for election, as you all know, is a team effort, and I had such a wonderful team who worked tirelessly with me over the past year. My amazing and dedicated campaign team never wavered in their belief that this day would come, and I thank them for the countless hours they put in to making it indeed a reality. I would also like to thank all of my supporters who, when it counted, made their voices heard. I said throughout the campaign that it was going to be a close race in Memramcook Tantramar, and I am nothing if not an honest politician. Every vote really does count, and I'm so proud that so many people in my riding took the time to cast their ballot on Election Day. And last, but definitely not least, I would like to thank my family. Running for office is a huge time commitment, a commitment it is impossible to make without the support and assistance of those closest to you. In particular, I would like to thank my mother, Gail, who helped me with everything from childcare to connecting with people in my riding, and my husband, Steve, who's been an important and constant support for me and my daughter, and has been nothing less than encouraging of my desire to run for office and serve my constituents, as a husband should be. I couldn't be here if they weren't there for me, and there's no thank you big enough to express how important they are to me. And my father is no longer with us, but he is one of the reasons that I am here today. It is a privilege to represent Memramcook Tantramar. I've been elected to be one of the voices of change in this province. Memramcook Tantramar was a wonderful place to grow up, and it is a wonderful place to raise my own family. After high school, I left to study, work, and travel in other places, but both my husband and I decided to return to our hometown of Sackville. Memramcook Tantramar is a huge riding, something I grew to appreciate as I walked over most of it this summer, canvassing door to door. It stretches from Memramcook to Cape Tormentine, Bay Vert to Rockport, and includes Sackville, Dorchester, Port Elgin, First Nation of Fort Folly, and so many other communities. To the east, it juts out to the Northumberland Strait. To the south, it reaches down into Shepparton Bay, and it is bordered by the Petitcodiac River. It includes the green fields of Memramcook Valley, the Tantramar marshes, and miles of forests. It is a beautiful place, including many communities. Le village de Memramcook est plein de trésors culturels et agricoles, du verger Béliveau aux petits fruits de Prédonho, de l'ancien collège au monument Lefebvre. In Port Elgin, PEDVAC is an example of people working for the community, doing everything from cooking classes to making and selling mittens. Fort Folly First Nation has a wonderful habitat recovery project. In Dorchester, community members are working together, moving Dorchester forward together and revitalizing the community. Sackville is a unique little town with more art galleries or cafes than traffic lights. In between and along the coast, there are so many beautiful spots with farmers and artists dotted around the rural landscape. But what truly makes Memramcook Tantramar amazing is its people. My riding is made up of innovative, caring, hard-working people, leaders in their communities, building capacity and spreading their vision. I think of just a few examples, the wonderful people working at places like the Sackville Commons and Co-working Space, which is working to create community and support startups, small businesses, and social entrepreneurs. Open Sky Cooperative, which is finding creative ways to create community and support adults on the autism spectrum with barriers to employment, while also growing delicious food on their farm. Cape Germain is a very eco-friendly place that has special habitat and is a beautiful tourist destination. Johnson's Mills has important habitat for sandpipers and has a solar panel in their building. Mount Allison University is a leading academic institution which contributes so much to my community. And Memramcook Institute, it's undergoing renovations, but it has plans to be a beautiful community hub, and maybe I can get office space in there someday. And honestly, I don't have time to name every beautiful place and amazing organization and wonderful person in my riding. I love the region I represent. And so, as I listened to the throne speech, I was listening for just one thing. Does this throne speech chart a path forward for my community? Does it address the challenges this province is facing in healthcare? There's a palliative care gap in our system. We need to provide better care and dignity for our community members as they're dying. There are nursing shortages, which I've seen firsthand, that are leaving hospitals understaffed, which is bad for staff and bad for patients. Mental health services are desperately needed and sorely lacking for many people in my community. And people are having a lot of trouble accessing them and getting the resources they need. Le programme extramural est une fierté pour le Nouveau-Brunswick. Mais maintenant, ce service est en danger. C'est dommage que nous privatisons des aspects de notre système de soins de santé quand ce système est d'une importante valeur pour les Canadiens et les Canadiennes. L'accès à ces services de haute qualité est à risque. The throne speech did not address the real problem, which is the private management of public services. We need to return the management of extramural and ambulance NB to the public sector. There is no question that we have a crisis with our ambulance services, and part of the problem is that we have moved this vital service out of public hands. There are obstetric units shutting down because of the nursing shortage, which is hitting a critical point. I saw this coming, so how could the government fail to act and fail to adequately address this issue in the past 4 years, or adequately address it in the throne speech? We're undervaluing care work, and we misunderstand its long-term value. Investing in care, whether we are caring for our children to ensure they get off to a good start, or supporting our elders in New Brunswick to stay at home longer, it is better for people and can be better for the bottom line. Putting resources into preventative care to help prevent diseases not only ensures better health outcomes for individuals and families, but healthier populations result in healthcare savings across the system. I'm thrilled to hear the government say it plans to hire more nurse practitioners, more nurses, and more midwives, and that it plans to open health centres across the province. I can only wonder why they did not do so sooner. I was less thrilled not to hear much about home care workers. With our aging population, we really need to ensure that our seniors have options. There are severe gaps in support for seniors, people with disabilities, and people who need palliative care. If we think about it, care work is part of the green economy. Low carbon emissions, community focused, and meaningful work. But we need training, resources, and fair pay. Paying people fair wages and implementing pay equity shouldn't be seen as a negative. I was also listening to see if this throne speech charts a path for my region when it comes to the environment. Memramcook-Tantramar is especially vulnerable to climate change. Flooding, in particular, is a deep concern. Our centuries-old dikes were built by the Acadians and have withstood the Bay of Fundy tides for centuries, but they were just not built to withstand rising water levels and the types of storms we have been experiencing in recent years. I was reading last night about an island that has vanished. East Island, a Hawaiian island in the Pacific, is now underwater. This is one of my fears for my riding. So much of it is at risk of being underwater too. Not only do the people of Memramcook-Tantramar face freshwater flooding from the increasingly frequent heavy rainfalls, which is hard enough to handle, but we are also at risk as sea level rises. This, combined with the high tides and storm surges, can create the perfect storm for disaster, like Hurricane Walaka, the storm that swallowed up East Island. A name we may want to keep in mind is that, as if the dikes were to breach, it could become the new nickname for our neighbouring province of Nova Scotia. We need plans to help the people in my riding and all across New Brunswick to face the realities of our changing climate with emergency preparedness and investment in infrastructure like dikes. And ultimately, we need to look at long-term solutions to save people if their communities get swallowed up by water. I didn't get into politics because of my child, but now that I have a daughter, when I read reports like the report from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, it hits me even harder. There's been a baby boom in my life recently. 3 of my close friends have had babies in the last few months. I tend to talk about politics with my friends, but I've hesitated to talk about climate change and the IPCC report with them. The last thing you want to hear while holding your newborn baby is that the world is going to be doomed in 12 years if we don't make huge changes to fix climate change. But I want to give a voice to them and their babies, to my daughter and all of the children in our communities, to the people my age who are contemplating whether or not they should even bring a child into this world at a time like this, for the people my age who are already seeing the world change and are being told we face climate catastrophe, but that it isn't economically feasible to do anything about it. We need to be bold. We need to put all people and the planet that we rely on for survival above economic fears and illusions. We need to make sure we keep asking who benefits from this, who is being harmed by this, as we make decisions and chart our path forward and out of this mess. And what kind of thinking got us here in the first place? Will that type of thinking get us out of it? These issues are hard to face, and even when it's hard, we must remember why we're doing this. This is a life or death situation. Mitigation and adaptation present opportunities within the greater challenge of climate change. There are economic opportunities to grow renewable energy companies and produce local goods that don't need to travel as far to reduce carbon pollution. There are ways to save money by making buildings more efficient and by focusing on healthy local food. This throne speech referenced plans related to energy efficiency and renewable energy. This is an important first step, but we need to continue down this path and we need to pick up the pace. According to the IPCC, we need rapid and far-reaching transitions in all aspects of society. We need systemic change. Well, that includes all of us sitting here today. But not only does that include us, there is a heavy responsibility on us to take action, to be bold, to be leaders. We need to build resilient communities. This is important for dealing with climate-related challenges and for all other challenges that New Brunswickers face too, such as an aging population, poverty, and inequality. While I heard a bit about promoting energy efficiency and renewable energy, I felt that I didn't hear enough about addressing climate change. We need to do more. We need to set goals and develop a timeline by which we are going to reach them. I was also disappointed that carbon pricing was not really addressed. And I must say, we are not customers. New Brunswickers are not customers. They are citizens. This is a missed opportunity in terms of carbon pricing to take bold action that would help New Brunswickers tackle climate change and keep control in New Brunswick rather than having a federal plan imposed on us. It has been successful in British Columbia and their economy has grown, and giving rebates to people is happening there. And the point of the carbon tax is to increase the price on pollution over time, to change behavior and change the market by taxing the pollution. And a rebate would actually give people more dollars to work with than the amount they're paying on the carbon tax. This is a tool we can use. I was also hoping to get a clear statement on the government's stance on glyphosate. What I heard this week was unclear and too weak. We face a moment that will decide our fate. My fate, the fate of my daughter, the fate of all New Brunswickers. Many of the challenges we face have had solutions proposed for decades. The perils of ignoring climate change and the solutions required to prevent its worst impacts have been known since before I was born, and I'm in my 30s now. So, Mr. Speaker, I ask, what are we waiting for? Does this throne speech chart a path forward for my community when it comes to education? I have been receiving messages this week from parents who are telling me that there's no janitorial staff cleaning the elementary school in Sackville. The school has downsized its library and water is leaking into the gym. When I worked in the high school in Sackville, there used to be water streaming through the ceiling in my office space. We don't have We don't seem to have any long-term planning or asset management thinking with the infrastructure that we have. And the community members looking down the road are feeling that their voices are not being heard as the community pulls together to work on options for the future of our local schools and our children's education. Sackville Schools 2020 has brought together community members to think about what our schools and our education system should look like in order to better serve our students, teachers, staff, and community members, not just in Sackville. We need to change our policies in order to be able to respond to local needs and bring decision-making closer to the community. J'ai animé mon premier rassemblement communautaire dans ma circonscription cette semaine. C'était dans le village de Memramcook à l'école Avilandry. Nous avons discuté de plusieurs sujets et quelques-unes de leurs préoccupations sont ressorties, dont notamment leurs droits linguistiques, du sort de l'Institut de Memramcook et du fait que les gens ne ressentent pas qu'ils ont le pouvoir de prendre des décisions qui ont des impacts sur leur communauté. Par exemple, les décisions concernant les fonds pour l'infrastructure de leur école. My mother served on the Committee for Early Childhood Education Petite Enfance, recommending universal childcare decades ago. And here we are, slowly starting to go in the right direction, with no changes to date in terms of pay equity, to have fair wages for this important work. Education at every level is so important to our province, and there was very little in the speech from the throne to even begin to address some of the very serious challenges our education system is facing. To hear the speech from the throne, one would think New Brunswick doesn't have any problems with poverty. It certainly doesn't chart a path forward for my region to address poverty. I heard very little that will help those New Brunswickers who are struggling to feed their families and keep a roof over their heads. Where was a basic income guarantee? Why did the government not address the fact that social assistance and the income many seniors receive isn't enough to live on? Why were there no changes to the unfair rules that claw back parts of their income? 1 in 5 children in New Brunswick lives in poverty. Mr. Speaker, how much longer are we willing to accept this? Does this throne speech chart a path forward for my community in terms of the economy? Nous avons entendu beaucoup de choses à propos de l'économie, mais je pense qu'on a besoin de nouvelles idées. Ce ne seraient pas les grandes entreprises qui vont nous sauver. Nous devons prendre les millions de dollars qu'on donne aux grandes entreprises et les investir et appuyer nos petites et moyennes entreprises. Et changer nos décisions d'achat, pas seulement des individus, mais aussi de l'administration, peut améliorer notre économie. Acheter les produits et les services locaux peut faire circuler des millions de dollars dans notre province. Un transfert de 10% des dépenses de consommation pour les biens et services importés vers des biens et services produits au Nouveau-Brunswick créerait 14 000 emplois et ajouterait 1,8 milliard annuellement à l'économie provinciale. I know some people feel shale gas is the answer to building a stronger economy, but lifting the fracking moratorium in some neighborhoods would be dangerous and short-sighted. Even if it was safe, which it is not, even if clean water and unpolluted air and public health could be guaranteed, which they cannot, even if it made economic sense for the province, which it does not, we cannot afford to invest in any more new fossil fuel infrastructure. Our climate can't handle it. We cannot continue on this path. And we do not need to. Fracking and pipelines are not our only options. Solar. There are small businesses installing solar panels and cooperatives wanting to invest in these projects in my riding, like Beauséjour Renewable Energy Cooperative. Wind. There are communities and individuals that want to put wind power in, but regulations are limiting them. We can change that. We are being left behind as other countries like China, India, the US, and countries in the EU expand their renewable energy markets. This is the way of the future, and New Brunswick could be a leader in renewable energy. Energy efficiency. This is an underestimated solution that we should be focusing on because it helps reduce our need for energy resources, can create jobs, and will help reduce heating costs for those who need it most. EOS Eco Energy in my riding is one organization showing leadership by working on teaching people how to make their homes energy efficient and specifically supporting those who struggle the most to pay their power bills. Better managing the resources that we do have is also important for our economy. I am disappointed that the forestry deal is still in place. It is a bad deal for New Brunswickers, and our forests have to be a real source of economic prosperity for communities and private woodlot owners. Crown forests, those controlled by the provincial government, are a public trust and must be managed in a way that upholds treaty obligations to First Nations, provides sustainable livelihoods and economic opportunities for forest-dependent communities, and maintains the ecological integrity of the forest. We have a duty to severely limit clear-cutting and end spraying to sustain our water, our wildlife, and the diversity of the Acadian forest, which can adapt to climate change. The current forestry deal is not good for our province, and the government did not announce any plans to change it. I would like to see us enact legislation to immediately cancel all 25-year contracts with the forestry companies signed by the Alward government in 2014 and retained by the Gallant government. I also did not hear anything about supporting rural economies, a serious oversight considering the number of New Brunswickers, the number of people in my riding who live in rural communities. Je suis fière de représenter une circonscription rurale. Focusing on our rural economy and taking advantage of the opportunities there needs to be a priority. We need to redefine the word economy. It should serve us, not the other way around. If you care about finances and the bottom line, then you must care about people and the environment. It is better for our finances to have a healthy population with enough money to meet, at a minimum, their basic needs and to spend that money in local businesses. It is better for our finances to have a resilient local environment and community. I also asked myself, Mr. Speaker, does this throne speech chart a path forward for better relationships with First Nations communities? Nous devons reconnaître et gérer dans le respect des traités de paix et d'amitié conformément à la Déclaration des Nations Unies sur les droits des peuples autochtones. I was happy to hear the government commit to implementing the calls to action from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. This is an important and necessary step, but it cannot stop there. We must continue to help preserve Indigenous languages and culture in New Brunswick by securing federal funding for Indigenous language teacher training and immersion programs for Indigenous children. We must implement the recommendations of the New Brunswick Child and Youth Advocates 2010 report on the First Nations child welfare system and secure equitable funding from the federal government for First Nations education and family services. We must address the recommendations of the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls as soon as they are released. We also need to build better relationships with other levels of government, such as municipalities. As a former municipal councillor, having served with mayor and council in Sackville, I am particularly aware of many of the issues facing New Brunswick municipalities. I've seen firsthand the province's lack of consultation with that level of government. Municipalities need to be better consulted, and they should have been better consulted, for example, the last time the government reviewed the Municipalities Act. Municipalities also need support with infrastructure. Municipalities do incredibly important work. They oversee many of the services and programs that touch people most directly. We need, as a province, to do a better job of working with them and supporting them as they care for our communities. And we could learn a thing or two about collaboration from the municipal world where they don't vote and work along party lines. I believe in our province and have a vision for a different way forward. And if we make changes and do things differently, I think that New Brunswickers that have moved away will want to return, and new Canadians will want to stay. But we need to embrace new ideas. Does this throne speech chart a path forward for my community in terms of diversity and embracing new ideas? New Brunswickers want things to change, and one way they have shown this is in voting for different ideas. We can look at this new situation as a way of reflecting diversity instead of division. New Brunswickers want things to be better, but they can only do so much at the individual level. We need a government that will lead and make bigger changes. Governing needs to be about leadership. I celebrated Pride with Mount Allison University in the town of Sackville recently, and although we have made strides forward, we still have a lot to do in New Brunswick to build stronger, more inclusive communities that understand our society, our history, and what work we need to do to respect and support the diversity of people who live here. I believe that New Brunswick can be a place where our community members feel safe and respected. Memramcook, le berceau de l'Acadie, est dans ma circonscription. Alors, on a des anglophones et des francophones dans Memramcook-Tantramar. Ce ne devrait pas être une grande surprise qu'une des préoccupations des personnes de ma circonscription soit le droit linguistique. Les résultats de la dernière élection étaient profondément inquiétants pour beaucoup de francophones dans notre province. Je veux que mes constituants francophones sachent que je les entends et que je vais faire mon mieux pour les représenter. Je saurai défendre leurs droits, leur langue et leur culture. We are underestimating New Brunswickers, and we are doing ourselves a profound disservice in thinking that we can't learn more than one language and not having a better education system to do just that. This is one of our strengths as a province, to be bilingual, have 2 official languages, not one of our weaknesses. The language training proposed by the government is a great start in supporting people to improve their language skills. The challenges facing our province are complex. There are no easy solutions, but we need to do a better job of seeing the whole picture, thinking about how things connect together and are interdependent. Il faut regarder à nos défis et voir les liens. Et c'est là où on pourrait trouver des solutions. Par exemple, notre système d'agriculture est essentiel à notre province, pour notre économie, pour notre santé, pour nos cultures, pour notre environnement. Et sans reconnaître ces liens, nous ne pouvons pas prendre les meilleures décisions pour les Néo-Brunswickois et Néo-Brunswickoises. Dans ma circonscription, le Centre de pédiatrie sociale travaille pour avoir ce type d'approche holistique, de voir les liens entre les défis et les solutions, pour aider les enfants. C'est exactement le type de programme innovant qu'on a besoin d'avoir pour mieux adresser les défis complexes. Doing things in a better way doesn't always cost more. In fact, it can save money. Poverty is a social determinant of health. If we address poverty, we will also have a positive impact on healthcare and lower costs. And we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We can look at ideas that have been studied and implemented elsewhere. There are good ideas to choose from. For example, basic income guarantee could ensure that everyone has enough income to allow them to meet their needs with dignity. Midwifery is actually an idea that is older than our current medical system, and it offers better outcomes, relieves hospitals that are overcrowded, and provides families access to the care they want. And again, this idea could save us money if implemented across the province. We can't talk about issues like healthcare, poverty, the environment, the economy, and education as if they are separate. That is one of the problems with how things are operated, as if they are not connected. So, does this throne speech chart a path for my community? I confess to feeling a little underwhelmed. There are many promises, good promises even, but I am left wondering why these things haven't been done already. Why weren't they done over the past 4 years? What has the government been waiting for? For pregnant women to lose access to their health care providers? For people to be left alone in hallways and hospitals without care? For people to not be able to afford their medications? For people to go without hearing aids and without dental care? For New Brunswickers to skip medical treatment because they can't afford to drive to the hospital, and because they don't have a car or access to public transit, especially in rural areas like mine. There are many items that I support, but they don't go far enough. This speech from the throne lacks boldness, ambition, and strength. And if ever we needed bold, ambitious, and strong policies and leadership, it's now. But we are in a new era, are we not? New Brunswick has never seen a legislature quite like this one. This new territory of collaboration can be tricky. We must not lose sight of our values when trying to work with others. We must learn to work with each other. We need creativity and cooperation. I think the government's call for more collaboration in the legislature, more transparency, and more frequent free votes is a step in the right direction. Instead of thinking in terms of division, we can look at this election as representing diversity. New Brunswick has never seen a legislature like this one with so many different voices represented. We should think about that as being a strength instead of a weakness. And perhaps we can use the results of this election as an incentive to figure out how to implement proportional representation and Vote 16, not figure out how to ask whether we should, as suggested in the throne speech. The time for whether or not on this question has passed. We are now at how. No matter who forms government, I sincerely ask that my fellow MLAs work together with an open mind and across party lines to get the important things done, things that should not even be political. Saving the world should not be a partisan issue. Ensuring a livable future, let alone a good one, for the people of New Brunswick should be at the top of everyone's agenda. New Brunswickers don't want to be treated like they're stupid. They want to see honesty and common sense in the legislature. I know the people of Memram Cook are ready for change. At a time when we are being told the future is bleak, and I've contributed to that a little bit today, we need to hold on to some hope. I once read a book about how our economies are set up, about local currencies and solutions for the unstable, unequal global markets that we have. Its title was, "It Doesn't Have to Be This Way." This simple phrase captures the essence of how I feel and how many people in New Brunswick are feeling. It acknowledges that the current situation isn't acceptable and expresses frustration, but it also offers hope for the future, hope for alternatives. We need a government willing to provide the leadership that New Brunswick needs right now to build that better future here at home. We have a choice, and we have the power to choose a better way forward for New Brunswick together. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Merci, Monsieur le Président. Will Allen.